Justina Wallace was gunned down in this apartment complex off of 17th Avenue North last Friday.
How could you possibly walk through children, two kids with a gun, and point it to another person that's holding the child? That's sad. That's really sad. So I mean, I just don't know what could have possibly driven her to that point. I understand.
A pregnant mother holding her 2-year-old child in her arms collapsed under a hail of bullets. The shooter was also pregnant, and both women were carrying the child of the same man. It sounds like a movie, but this is a shocking reality that unfolded in the heart of America. In that fateful moment, at the Norwood neighborhood in Birmingham, Alabama, an argument exploded between two young women. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about fame. It was about sharing the same man. And then the gun fired. One woman was dead. One was arrested. An unborn child would never see the light of day. The victim was Justina Wallace, 36 years old, a mother of 5, pregnant with her 6th child. Her friends described her as a devoted, compassionate, and resilient mother. The suspect was Ania Nowden, 21 years old, also pregnant, and also had a child with the same man as Justina. This case is far more than a personal conflict. It is a harrowing testament to the consequences of jealousy, possessiveness, lack of emotional control, and the dangerous silence of those around them. Welcome to Crimson Files, where we uncover true crime stories you probably haven't heard before. And we'd truly appreciate it if you enjoy our content and choose to support it. One small action: hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so we can notify you as soon as new videos drop. Now, let's dive into today's story. Justina Wallace, a name that may sound ordinary at first, yet her life was an extraordinary journey through the struggles of everyday existence. Born and raised in Florida, Justina once dreamed of a stable life, not just for herself but for her 5 young children, who always needed something to hold on to. Although she wasn't able to finish college the first time around, she never let go of her dream. In her 30s, she made a bold decision to start over. She moved to Birmingham, Alabama, with a plan to return to school, earn a degree in business management, and open a small boutique. Within her burned a quiet conviction: it's never too late to begin again. Life hadn't handed Justina any favors. A single mother of 5, she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders, from morning breakfasts to late-night homework sessions. Despite financial hardship, she never let her children feel poor. To Justina, success wasn't measured in money, but in full bellies, love-filled homes, and children raised with kindness and values. Neighbors would often see her, one child in her arms, another in tow, walking them to school, rain or shine. Her modest apartment walls weren't adorned with luxury, but they overflowed with children's drawings, school awards, and scribbled notes reading, "I love you, Mum." She was the very image of a mother who never gave up. Friends described her as straightforward, honest, and filled with a kind of warm energy, the kind that made others feel at ease just by being around her. She didn't have much, but she always gave what she could. Once, she walked for hours just to attend a job interview, unwilling to spend the bus fare she could instead use to buy milk for her kids. When the tragedy struck, Justina was pregnant with her 6th child. Even as her body grew weary and the pressures mounted, she still woke early every morning, preparing breakfast, packing lunches, and gently sending each child off with love. For Justina, motherhood was never a burden, it was a calling. No one expected that such a resilient woman would fall victim to such senseless violence. Justina's death didn't just take a life. It stole the light of an entire family, the future of 6 children, and the unfinished dream of a woman who never stopped believing in goodness. Behind the tragic death of Justina Wallace lies a tangled love triangle, one fueled by jealousy, possession, and simmering conflict, where emotion overtook reason and no one was willing to step back. Both Justina, a 36-year-old mother, and Ania Nowden, a young woman just 21, were pregnant by the same man. His identity has never been publicly revealed, but his role in this tragedy is undeniable. He lived a double life, moving between 2 women, fathering children with both, and plunging them into a vortex of toxic emotional competition, where no one ever truly won. There was no reconciliation, no genuine dialogue, only a long, festering silence that eventually erupted into sharp words on social media, cryptic posts, veiled threats, late-night messages steeped in suspicion, frustration, and helplessness. The man at the center of it all did nothing to resolve the conflict. He let the tension fester, allowing the women to spiral into a never-ending battle, one that ended in bloodshed. Ania, young and full of expectations, entered the relationship hoping to capture the man's full attention, to win his heart. Meanwhile, Justina, who had spent years with him, raised his child, and tried to build a home, felt threatened and replaced. Each believed she was the original, the more important partner. Each wanted to be acknowledged, to be loved completely, something the man was clearly incapable of providing. The tension escalated as financial stress weighed heavily on both households. Recovered text messages revealed toxic comparisons like, "At least she doesn't complain about money," or "She's better at taking care of the kid." Each phrase, each hint of favoritism, no matter how small, fueled resentment and drove a deeper wedge between the 2 women. Brief encounters at school drop-offs, children's birthday parties, or during custody exchanges became battlegrounds. Glances, words, even the distance between where they sat. Everything was scrutinized and misinterpreted. The people around them felt the tension too. Mutual friends began to avoid them. Gatherings with both present were cancelled, as everyone sensed the atmosphere was combustible, ready to explode at any moment. No punches were ever thrown, but the wounds were real. Emotional wounds, festering beneath the surface, inflicted on 2 women trapped in a boundaryless relationship. A fracture, seemingly invisible, silently pushed them both toward the edge. On the afternoon of July 7, 2023, summer sunlight bathed the Norwood apartment complex, a working-class neighborhood in Birmingham. The air was heavy, humid. Everything seemed normal. Justina Wallace, visibly pregnant, was carrying her 2-year-old daughter with 2 other children following closely behind. She held a bag of snacks and cool drinks in one hand. Her plan was simple: stop by a nearby store, then take the kids out for a weekend treat. No one, not even her, knew this would be the final outing of her life. A few minutes before 3 p.m., a car pulled into the parking lot next to the apartment complex. Justina stepped out, child in arms, glancing around as if she were looking for someone. At the same moment, Ania Nowden appeared from another direction. The 21-year-old, also pregnant, stood across from Justina. She wasn't alone. A female friend accompanied her. A confrontation began. No screaming, no chaos, just tense stares, and words loaded like dynamite. Justina spoke first, according to witnesses, asking Ania to stop showing up in front of her children. Ania replied with an icy, provocative remark. The conversation lasted less than a minute, but the tension was suffocating. Justina took a step forward, her voice rising. That was the turning point. Ania reached into her purse and pulled out a handgun. 3 shots rang out in just a few seconds. The first missed. The second struck Justina in the back as she turned away. The third pierced her chest. She collapsed onto the pavement, still clutching her little girl, who screamed in terror. Neighbors rushed out. Shouts echoed through the air. Someone called 911. In less than 7 minutes, police arrived on the scene. They found Justina motionless, blood pooling on the sidewalk. Her 2 older children stood nearby, trembling, eyes wide in shock and fear. An ambulance rushed Justina to UAB hospital in critical condition. Doctors did everything they could, but the wounds were fatal. That night, she passed away, along with the unborn child she was carrying. Right at the crime scene, Ania Nowden, the shooter, was arrested without resistance. A 9mm handgun lay beside her, a silent yet undeniable piece of evidence pointing to the brutality that had just unfolded. Eyewitnesses, security cameras, and even the presence of a small child served as unspoken testimonies to the bloodshed that marked that fateful afternoon. Ania was charged with first-degree murder, one of the most serious offenses under Alabama state law. She wasn't only accused of killing Justina Wallace, but also of causing the death of Justina's unborn child. Prosecutors swiftly moved to add an additional charge, fetal homicide, opening the door to a possible sentence of life imprisonment without parole, or even the death penalty. During the initial interrogation, Ania admitted she had seen Justina unarmed, holding only her young child, yet she still reached for the gun, still pulled the trigger. This statement, perhaps intended to justify fear, ended up severely undermining any claim of self-defense. Ania's attorney immediately filed a motion for bail, citing her 8th month of pregnancy, a diagnosis of preeclampsia, and the need for special medical attention. They proposed electronic monitoring and a transfer to a separate medical unit to avoid contact with mentally unstable inmates. However, the judge rejected the motion outright. The court's decision was firm. The heinous nature of this crime, along with the overwhelming evidence at the scene, precludes the defendant from being released, regardless of her health condition. Ania continues to be held in the medical ward of Jefferson County Jail, awaiting formal trial. Prosecutor Daniel Stewart stated that, if convicted, Ania Nowden could face life in prison without the possibility of parole or even the death penalty, depending on the trial outcome. As the story spread, the Alabama community and the broader American public reacted with shock, not only at the crime itself, but also at the larger question of how the legal system handles homicides involving intimate relationships, especially those involving pregnancy and child witnesses. The case remains under investigation and has yet to reach its final court date, but one fact has already become painfully clear. The prolonged silence in the face of escalating conflict, combined with easy access to firearms, was the perfect storm that led to this unthinkable tragedy. Sky's second birthday, the youngest daughter of Justina, still took place just days after her mother was murdered. The cake was still ordered, the balloons were still inflated, but instead of laughter, there were choked-up tears. Justina's family decided to go ahead with the celebration as a farewell gesture, honoring Justina's wish for her child to have a birthday, no matter the circumstances. The Birmingham community didn't just stand by. A candlelight vigil was held at the Norwood apartment complex, right where Justina fell. Flowers, teddy bears, handwritten letters were lined up along the entrance of the complex. Local churches launched fundraising campaigns to help the victim's family, covering funeral expenses and supporting the care of Justina's children. Mothers from the same daycare center even created a rotating schedule to babysit and deliver daily meals to the family. However, no amount of support could truly compensate for the emotional trauma the 6 children are now forced to endure. Especially the 3 who witnessed with their own eyes their mother collapsing in a pool of blood right before them. Mental health experts warn post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, in children can last a lifetime if not treated properly. Justina's sister, Shamari Cook, declared she would adopt all 6 children and raise them as her own. They lost their mother, but they will not lose their family, Shamari said tearfully at the memorial. She quit her job, moved into Justina's home, and began learning how to mother a family she never expected to have. Local media, which at first reported the case as a typical crime incident, gradually shifted focus to the underlying social issues: violence in intimate relationships, lack of psychological support systems, and the ease of firearm access. From loss and devastation, Justina's family is trying to write a new chapter. A chapter of love, unity, and the protection of the lives that remain. In heartbreaking stories like these, the only thing that can salvage the future is timely action and collective community support. The tragedy of Justina Wallace is more than just a wake-up call. It is a solemn reminder. Love, when not accompanied by reason and compassion, can become a double-edged sword. And in a world where children still have to witness adults resolving conflict through gunfire, our responsibility, the living, has never been more clear. The heartbreaking murder of Justina Wallace doesn't just shock us because of its brutality, it forces us to confront a painful question. How many warning signs does it take before someone finally speaks up? This is not just a tragedy between 2 women, it is a glaring reflection of unresolved social issues. Unhealthy jealousy, lack of emotional regulation skills, community silence, and a support system, both psychological and legal, that is far too weak. In this story, both Justina and Ania were trapped in a tangled love triangle. There were no tools for mediation, no one to intervene, and no safe space for either of them to seek advice or support. When women have no escape from toxic relationships, violence becomes inevitable. We need to stop and ask ourselves, how can we identify possessive, controlling, and toxic behavior early on? How can we make those involved feel safe enough to speak up and seek help before things spiral out of control? And most importantly, how do we ensure that children never have to be silent witnesses to adult tragedies again? This is not just a warning for co-parenting couples, it's a call to all of us, neighbors, family members, friends, and colleagues. Violence is never a foregone conclusion, but indifference, delay, and lack of intervention, those are the very things that feed it. We cannot change the past, but we can change how we respond in the future. And that response could save a life. Share this story, not because it's tragic, but because somewhere out there, a woman is crying silently, feeling alone. And if just one life is saved because of this story, then Justina Wallace's tragedy will not have been in vain. If you've stayed with us until now, please don't walk away with just a regretful shake of the head. Carry something far more important with you: responsibility. because somewhere around us, toxic relationships still exist, where people are manipulated by affection, suffocated by jealousy, and drowned in silence. And sometimes, just one gentle touch, one sincere question, one timely intervention can stop another tragedy from unfolding. If you see something wrong, speak up. If you see a woman in pain, don't look away. Act, not with judgment, but with genuine care. We shouldn't have to wait for another life to be lost before we learn how to love and protect one another. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with more people, so the message of protecting women, children, and healthy relationships can reach even further. On behalf of the team behind this video, we extend our deepest condolences to the family of Justina Wallace. We hope her children will receive all the love and support they need, not just to survive, but to grow up safe, strong, and full of hope. Remember this story and let it move you to act, because one day you might be the person who saves a life, or protects a child from a memory they should never have to carry.